That's what I need about now. Something with a good spike to it. That would go bad
Really,
really
oh,
quickly.
it's an eye opener and that stuff. Let me tell you.
Well, here we go. We are
I'm
actually
getting.
we're live now though. I will say this. I looked away for a minute. I apologize.
Okay.
Um
Well,
welcome back aboard, Paul. Paul McCarthy, who we've spoken to before, coming back to Studio 586B for a step beyond 10 questions. You're the first person that's ever like, and now we're going to do past.
oh wow! I'm setting a stage. Unfortunately.
Right?
Oh well. Got to start somewhere.
Well, I very much I feel very bonded with you over a feeling of wanting to connect people. Is that
Mhm.
vague enough that does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it's. I guess my thinking around that, if you bear with me, is we created this whole capacity to connect people with phones, computers, over various modes of technology. Yet we seem to be further apart. I was eating dinner last night with my two grandkids, my wife, and everybody was on a different device.
Mm.
So, I'm, wanting to connect people, men specifically,
Hmm.
to build better communities. In order to do that, I'm using technology, which where we connected,
Hmm.
and I think it can serve a very good purpose if it's used effectively.
Yeah, yeah. I consistently end up feeling like we're at the tip of the iceberg. That it's almost like somebody's handed us. I think the other night I said somebody handed us a sonic screwdriver and we don't know how to use it. You know, that Doctor Who really knew how to make that sonic screwdriver fix anything. And it seems like this ability to connect that's so much beyond anything we've ever had could lead to some amazing places if used right.
Yeah, and I get a feeling you're right on that. It's the beginning of something. The pandemic sent us inside, forced us to become connected over the internet, and that's an opportunity to outreach beyond your hometown, right? To connect with people from all over the world. I mean, I heard Anthem last night. Coming on first from Nigeria, and
Nairobi,
he,
Nairobi.
sorry, Nairobi, pardon,
You're
Kenya.
okay.
We met him through another man on another platform.
Yeah,
So, and that's kind of how connections happen, right?
yeah. Have you met my friends? You know, it sounds. Have you met the boys, as you would say?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's all about connecting and being in authentic relationships. We're all in one world, and my thinking is if we can go outside our little towns, countries, and see the world and meet people for who they are, where they are, what they do, how they live, how they pray, how they do whatever they do. It's just a better way to get a deeper understanding
Yeah.
and to get a feeling that we're not all different, right?
Well, that
And that brings bringing people together. If you can do it, and you can be authentic, and you can get a sense of belonging, then you can change things.
I hope.
You know,
Go ahead.
you can.
That
I really think you can. I really think it's just a matter of one person at a time
yeah.
doing things.
Well, it hit me. So the other day when we were talking, you said, "Do you want me to interview people?" And I thought, "Oh wow, I hadn't thought about that." Like, oh, this is already crazy. I hadn't thought about that bit yet. Then I began thinking about the idea of, well, what if people did want to do that? What if somebody wanted to interview somebody else and then send it in? Or you know what I mean? If it was a format that resonated with people, I guess, was the feeling I got when you asked that. I was like, oh, it's the idea that one at a time takes a little longer if it's just me, obviously. And well, me and Ross. Sorry, Ross. I never would do that to you, buddy. Um, that this experience today and over the last few weeks, and we're not going to stop, has literally changed. It has had an effect on me. Um, these amazing people who have offered me their time. I and I can't think of any way to thank. I don't know enough words to express the gratitude of. I had this crazy idea, and these beautiful people showed up for us. You know that's I got a call from a friend of ours yesterday, um, who well, maybe it was the day before yesterday, day before yesterday. Said, you know what, I have this equipment that I was looking at, and I realized, you know what, I haven't used this in forever, and I was keeping it around. And you know what? Why don't you give me your address, and I should send it out to you guys. And the idea that a project you're working on is something that causes people is in other people's heads when you are gone. They're thinking about that, and that they want to somehow contribute. Um, is it amazes me, moves me in a way that my biggest issue has always been, how do I um open myself up to receive versus constantly trying to be there for other people. So you got to believe by the end of today, I'm dumbfounded. I'm just overwhelmed by the general the gratitude of it, and that I think that is infectious as well. That I as I talk to each of these people, as Ross and I talk to them, we all, no matter who we've spoken to, we found connection. Different connections depending on who it was, different places, different pieces, but always connection. And I couldn't tell you that I expected it to always. So, I mean, and I don't mean always that's a guaranteed thing, but I mean in the sense that, wow, I am deeply moved by both our group and by the groups we are around, and it gives me hope for our ideas. It puts in my head the idea that we maybe you know what, I was talking to my shaman buddy that I was telling you about earlier today, and he was talking about how he feels very much like he's seen people were stuck inside and they refound themselves. They were stuck with themselves and they had to deal with that. It'll be interesting. You know what? We shall see.
Well, my thinking is, according to science, you can have there's something called a Dunbar number, which
Mm-hmm.
predicts you can have 150 deep connections with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking maybe I have 10 or 12.
Get a couple
And
spaces.
I'm reflecting on people. I look at that as people that would. I was kidding with someone. I was kidding with my buddy in Ireland. He said, "With this men's work you're doing, what are you trying to do?" I said, "Well, I kind of like 152 people who really know me to show up at my funeral, right?" So,
Yeah.
um, what is that like? Well, Facebook, they call it a friend, which is a misnomer.
Right.
Uh, if you actually change the name to Facebook acquaintance, or when you really drill down to it, we've trivialized our connections. I think personally, to the point where we've allowed social media to create this barrier between who we are and what we can be, and in our interactions with other people. So, the goal with my project, the Wise Men, is to broaden connections with real connections with people from around the world, and I'm using technology
Mm-hmm.
and the I guess the the pain of the pandemic, which kind of made this kind of communication doable. Because 3 years ago people wouldn't get on a computer and have a discussion. Now they'll do it. So what do you do with that? So you can either, well, I guess my thinking is, how can I reach out to men from around the world, create a container, where men can come in, can sit, be real, can speak their truth, can be heard and hear, and to be authentic, and to be challenged and to hear feedback, and this whole context around bringing men into more serious relationships with other men. Not to say that it's a typical male problem, but men seem to be more isolated in their lives, and I think it's sad, really, that we as a society we've kind of you know we we limit our contacts, and
Yeah.
maybe that's safety, maybe it's fear. I don't want to know my neighbor because he may have something. He may not be a guy I want to get to know, rather than trying to get to know him. So in a physical sense, there's some barriers. People live in houses, right, and live independently, but I just think there's a general fear out there, fear of the unknown, fear to get to know people.
Yeah.
We have this technological overlay that allows us to live in trivial encounters, and we think that's okay. So I'm trying to push that away and try to get into deeper relationships, trying to move it across the planet. Whether or not I'm successful, and I know I've got about 50 guys right now. It's 3 or 4 groups, Matt, which you're a part of, and
Absolutely.
so it's a gift of service. We talked about what's service.
Yeah.
What is it? It's me serving, living my purpose, trying to serve the needs of uh, people, men, and try to make a better world. So, and it's a give back project for me. So I'm not charging any money or anything, or I'm just wanting to find 152 people for my, my
For your list, for your funeral.
people I know, people who know me, right?
Yes. People
I
that
mean,
have a
you
real
know,
connection. That
right. So how do you do that? How do you do that? And it's funny if you look through the world leaders. I'll use some American examples because I
okay.
think most folks are. You look at guys like, not for political affiliation, I'm not going to talk about politics. Well, there's two. One Democrat, Bill Clinton,
Okay.
and one Republican, Ronald Reagan, who could actually talk to you like you were a person, could walk a crowd, and he would connect with you, or they would connect with the people in the crowds, and it would be like you knew them, right? It would be like you could connect with them. People would you could tell them a story. He could be shaking your hand and he'd be asking you, how's your mother? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Real connection. Um, and I think that skill's kind of lacking, right? I'm kind of talking a bit off the top here, but
No, do you
I'm
know
just saying,
I
if
have
there's a way, I mean, the people, there's got to be a willingness to connect, right?
yeah.
And then an acceptance of the connection, right? But you can see examples of people, leaders, people that you're charismatic. You say, well, what is it about that person? Well, they just want to know you. They ask questions. They want to get to know who you are as a person. They want to connect with you, right? They ask you a question like, how's your mother? How's your father doing? How are your grandkids? What's your favorite color? Anything.
Right. Well, I it's so funny that you say that because I heard an interview on NPR years and years ago. And I listened to somebody explaining interactions with Bill Clinton. That Bill Clinton made always held eye contact and always made you feel like you were the only person in the room.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I took that seriously and worked at that. And that you're bringing the fact that you brought up those two, the one president I ever wrote a letter to, Reagan, and the one guy that I decided that's how you work a room, Bill Clinton. And
But it's an openness, Matt. It's an openness to say you are important to me, right?
yeah,
Like even if you're not important to me, like to give people the feeling that you care about them, and if you have a community where men, in our case, working men's work,
mm-hmm,
where you can allow that transfer of caring, right?
right,
Then you build those 152 connections, right? So it's like you say, work the room, and that's a good example. So first you have to create the room, then
yep,
you have to set up the dynamic of how the room can interact, and then you have to provide to some of the men training wheels. It's going to take them a while to really, you know, you know, take the bike for a ride. But generally speaking, if you create the right environment, you can have these connections where people care about one another back and forth, right? And using technology to do that, it's an interesting way to kind of meet the world, I think.
Absolutely. I've been amazed. So I talk to a variety of people that also do kind of some, energy work and stuff. And the conversations have been about the fact that that feeling of connection somehow crosses that barrier. That you know what, that I can feel it as I'm, oh my God, we laughed with Anthem so hard. And just he's such a spirit that you'd feel that, here you are on the other side by far, depending on which way you go, you either cross Africa or all the way across the Pacific and across America. Here's this guy that you feel that real connection with. And I would be dishonest to say I expected that as consistently. That this was a hypothesis, and this was, how do I test this? Not to say that I'm some deep scientist, but to say that if you spend the time hearing people, will they go out and then hear other people? Does it change the way not only do we see them and they see us, but they see the.
Well, it's about allowing yourself to be seen, and what are the disadvantages of keeping it all in? Like, do you really need to keep it in? Do you really need to let people not know who you are, that you're a human, you make mistakes, you may not get it right all the time? You know, you need to be validated all the time that you're something that maybe you're not, or can you just say, "Ah, that's who I am"? And that's what service is all about. I think you want to talk about service. It's all about, what does giving back look like? It's about understanding, for me, that there's a world out there that I can make a difference in. And one of the ways to do that is to be vulnerable, to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go at this and I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to run this men's group and I'm going to let people criticize me and, whatever. I guess criticize could be the right word. Or
Well,
have an opinion that it isn't the way it should be, or want to change it, whatever. So, but you know what? That's totally okay, right? Because when you're in service to, either in men's work or in my refugee work, when I'm
yeah,
working with other people, you have to just understand that when you're in service, you come there with what you are. You don't have any judgments. You don't have judgments about how people live, how people pray, how people dress, right?
exactly.
And but that's allowing yourself to sit in a world where it's okay for people not to be like you, right? And to provide what you need to provide, right? Whatever, without saying, I can't do this because this person is this way,
Right,
right?
right.
I can't accept this culture. I can't accept the way they do this or that. And if you are free of that, then you can be a man of service, because you're not going to have those judgments. You're going to say, I can live to help people that aren't like me. I can live to do things that I may not agree with from where I was brought up, right?
Right.
So I think I loved what Anthem said. How do you know where you're going unless you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been,
Unless you know where you've been.
right?
Right?
So, I mean, but where you've been, the work you do to get to a place where you can allow yourself to be seen, right, allows you to go forward, right? So if you've done the work to come to a place where you can say, I'm ready to do what I need to do in my life to make a world a better world, if that's what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Uh, then you can live a life of service, and you can have people criticize you. You can say, because I've had people, why do you help those people? Why are you bringing those people into Canada? Why do you want to help them? Right? Well, because they need help, right? They need help. I have no other, you know what? Like, what about the way they treat their women or the way they treat their children? I said, well,
That's not my
you
call
know,
today. Yeah,
you know what? I'm not.
that's yeah.
All I'm doing is providing. I heard a man say once, all I need is a place I can sleep, safe place to sleep, and a place to bring up my kids, right? And you know what? That's all it is, right? So I don't have a judgment around that.
Right.
I don't have a feeling around, well, you know what, you bring your stuff from your country,
Mm,
and I don't agree with it. I don't like it. It's like, well, no, I'm just providing you with a place to live. I'm providing you with a place to bring your children. I'm providing you a place that's better than where you were. I'm providing you with what you
somewhere
need
somewhere
to live.
safe.
Yeah, but I'm
Security.
saying, but in order to get there, you need to put a lot of your baggage away
Mm,
in anything. Men's work, my two experiences, men's work and refugee work. I
right.
mean, one of the things with in men flipping back to men's work is, I'm not here to heal men and to have opinions about men and to talk about their religious beliefs and why I think this is crazy and why I think that can't work. I'm here for them to hear and to be heard. And if it's time for them to make decisions and changes, well, I'm here to hear what they need to do and support what I can. And
Right.
that's all it is. And that's all it is. And that's what you need to do to be of service. You say, I am here to serve. I am here to create what I need to create so men can come together in the case of men's work, or for refugees to come together. We call them newcomers here.
I think that makes
Uh,
sense.
yeah. So,
The
I mean,
other
that's all.
term feels bad. It,
But I was laughing when I heard Anthem last night, thinking, exactly, right? Where have you been? What have you brought to this point in your life?
mm,
What do you need to do if you're going to do something, right? Where have you been? What do you need to do to go to where you need to go? What do you need to deal with? Right?
oh,
If you've got to go somewhere, I mean, if you've got to do something, I mean, if your objective is, I want to help, uh, I don't know, people in the third world, and you go to the third world and you expect it to have a running, you're in a community in Mexico and there's no toilet or there's whatever, and you're saying, I don't want to live like this. Well, where's the toilet? Where, like, no,
you
I mean,
missed it. Yeah, you missed it. Exactly.
it's kind of like, no, you've got to accept, the premise that whatever you hold to be a judgment about how people should live or what to expect and all of that, you've just got to go with open arms, and you got to say,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to take what I can with me into the project, and what I can take with me is where I've been, and where I've been, I need to do the work on in order to make sure that I can move forward, right?
Well, absolutely. That it. I always think when we get down these paths, I always think of Thich Nhat Hanh, and the one thing, not the one thing, many things he said struck me, but the comment that the most valuable gift that we can give each other is compassionate listening, which means showing up for people the way they need help instead of the way you've decided they need help. You know what I mean? That they're seeing people for people as opposed to, well, and yes, and I've decided what you all need is this. That doesn't work. We talk a lot in the studio about the idea that if you want to actively help somebody, have a conversation with them first. Don't just decide this is what would help them because you don't know that.
Well, it's taking your beliefs. If you feel it's taking your judgments, like, I think people should do this.
Mm,
Let me use a good example is for resettling people from Syria, right? And they have a different context around the role of women,
yeah.
uh, which I don't agree with, right? But in order to accept the fact that I'm going to be helping people that are different from me, the fact I don't agree with it is irrelevant.
Well,
Right?
it's
I mean, in order to provide the service, you can see things around you, or you can hear people that will come at you with different issues that are going to twig on your boundaries. You can say, well, you need to do this advice. Like, from my experience, this is what I think you should do, right? This unwanted advice. Or you could say, well, I hear what you're saying. What do you need to do? Like, what do you need to do? What do you need from me? How can
right.
I help you? Right? You know, what would you like? I'm hearing it. You've got distress, or I'm hearing you're this or you're that, right? And it's not, it could be, I hear you're this or that because, you don't have a job or you didn't do this. You know what I mean? Like, but putting that judgment piece in, right?
That's
So,
true.
you know what? So I'm just saying is, if when you're in service to people or in service to humanity. It's kind of like, let me hear what you're saying, and I will try not, I will listen to you with an open heart, and I will not tell you, I will not, I will not hold what I feel as, what I feel my biases are as a reason to judge you or not to hear you, right?
Well, right. The one I always think of it as any other option is trying to hear my perspective through somebody else's voice, and that's not reality. That's projection. That this is how I see the world, and me looking at you and going, well, you're gonna have to see it my way so I can help you. That doesn't work. What I love in the process is watching people share the piece that I don't. It's more interesting to me. Talk to me about the other pieces. I don't need to fight with you. No, I I get that all of those social constructs that have changed in every culture over thousands of years and have been, which ones do you point to and go, okay, yeah, I don't. You're right. There are some that I go, okay, I don't agree with that. But
But Matt, what I want to do is I want to put people in a room like in this men's work we do
mm-hmm.
from different states, different uh, countries, different socioeconomic
Backgrounds,
conditions,
yeah.
different races, different creeds. I just want to create a space where everybody can bring in what they need to bring in themselves, right?
Mm.
And have everybody hear what they need, hear them, and to say, you know what? Yeah, I hear you. Um, and what do you need? As opposed to, I hear you, you're wrong.
Well, right. A
Or I hear you,
discourse.
you change. Or I hear you, this doesn't make sense to me, right? If the context is this doesn't make sense to me, it's like asking for clarity, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. It's fine, right? But I don't understand, and I think you're full of shit, right? Is wrong. Like I don't
Yeah.
understand why you want to do this. So the issue is, can we live like that? Can we bring in people into a space and have this kind of real conversation where people really say what's on their mind and can live with their truth amongst everybody's truth, right?
Yeah.
Because we all bring our own baggage into wherever we're going, right? Whether it's a dinner party at Christmas, whether it's whatever golf course, wherever you're going, you bring your stuff, right? So
Absolutely.
you bring your stuff and you can have a serious conversation about whatever it is, and to be really heard and to be listened to, right? To be heard. So
Yeah.
that's my objective with what I'm doing with this men's project, right?
I'm
Which
tired, so
we
I'm gonna go ditto. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that. Well, but you put it
and
so
I don't
beautifully.
I have like right now I've got like 30 guys that are wonderful men, and like I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, I've just kind of thrown my hat into the ring and say, you know what? I looked around for 2 years to find something where I could come into a space and be real with men, and didn't find it. So I said, what the hell? Why
So
don't I
make it.
why don't I do this? So
Well,
that's the genesis of the whole thing.
that's the definition. Is when you see that and what you do is go, maybe I should do something about it. And I think that's in the end this piece. You're looking around and you go, you know what? I can't feel like I know something I could do and not do it. If that you look and you go, you know what? Maybe I could help. Maybe I see something that in this type of communication and creating a discourse and getting people to take off their masks and actually see each other. You
Well,
know?
it's a work in progress. Most of my men's work has been in person, so and men have a different level of trust and caring and sharing and all this stuff, but it's all about providing the environment and setting the example, right? For
Yeah.
me, right? So when you're in service to anything, it is the mission is defined as, what do you want to do? Where have you been? What do you need to create? And how do you manage the space in a sense of a group, right? I mean, how do you manage the container so that men can feel they can come in and be heard, and everything we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
So the service is providing for me, the service I'm providing is the construct, the container, and my willingness to be authentic
Yeah.
and to show, right? And that's all.
Well, the security of an open space is huge, though. It in a lot of ways, I that resonated deeply as I go, okay, I'm trying to also build a space where people feel secure enough to be seen as who they are. You're also looking to build, we've talked about this, a secure space where, as men, we feel comfortable enough to reveal ourselves to each other. That didn't sound right. But
No.
but that it's a very meaningful. I often when we have these conversations, I'll hear those pieces, and I want you to know they touch me deeply. They resonate with me, and I think, how do I keep ending up in these really cool places with these amazing people? Truth be told, Paul, you're an incredible guy who, a your dedication is meaningful to me from just a distance in the sense that, I'm trying to figure out how to do this thing and model what do you do to make this thing work. And, I ended up, who knows how, in the group with you. And it, it's been one thing after another like that, this process. I feel grateful endlessly.
Me too, buddy.
Thank you so much for all of your help. I will see you tomorrow. God, is tomorrow Tuesday? Jesus.
We'll need some sleep.
Maybe I might get some of that. But we will talk again soon. I think I've got maybe 3 more interviews to go, something like that. We're getting close. We're getting close. We're in the ballpark. And you know what? I will see you then. And I thank you, Paul.
Okay, goodbye, Ross. You take care. Is your mom coming over to feed you again
I let him
between now and midnight?
I let him sneak off to the bed. He's asleep.
All right.
I'll go get him in a minute. Thanks,
Okay.
Paul. Bye
See ya.
bye.
Goodbye. See you. Bye.